Okie dokie. You're on. Okay, welcome everybody. This week is Blended Families Week 5 of 12. We're going to be talking about the spousal relationship. That's husbands and wives, if anybody was wondering. But Carol's going to go over some announcements that she has, and then we'll get into the teaching. Towards the end, we are going to be playing a video that's 12, 13 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to erase what's on this board, do the video, and then do what's on the other board, and then wrap it up. But it's going to be Mark Gungor, a piece of one of his things, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. Men's brains, women's brains.
And how to trust.
And how to deal with stress.
Stress and trust people, I guess, yep. I wanted to give a shout out to Sandra and Randy from Wisconsin. They're new followers, and hello guys, and I hope you're warmer today than you were the first part of this week. So a special hello to Sandra and Randy. And we are still needing a little bit more money to cover the cost of the books for the class at the Dream Center down in Phoenix. Now we're looking at close to 200 people, 100 guys and 60 to 75 women. So they need to go, anyone that would like to help out with that, because we are a 501c3, so anything you donate, you will get your receipt donation letter so you can take it off your taxes. But you need to go to our website, blendedfamiliesministry.org, and the donation is at the bottom of the page. Is that where the donation button is?
There's a donation tab
Okay.
at the top.
And any amount would be helpful, so if you have some extra and would like to help them have their own books, that would be much appreciated.
And
Also,
they can even use the donate button on this particular Facebook page.
oh, okay, great. And then we will be doing a one-day training for premarital sometime in March, between the middle to the end of March, but I will announce that date next week. Of course, that will be here in Phoenix, and we don't do that live yet. That's kind of something we can't, kind of keep everything private. But we do have a one-day training for you pastors and leaders from different churches out there. Contact us and we can give you some more information on that. We have taken our 12-week classes and reduced it down to an 8 or 9 hour day program to get it all done, and it works very well. Several pastors and leaders are using it in their churches here in the Valley. And that was kind of all I had, other than we had a few things that happened this week. Some special prayers were needed, and when we did our radio show, we used to reach out to everybody at the end of the show. Reach out and make somebody's day special. You don't know what's going on in their home or in their lives, and one of our daughter's friends committed suicide the other day, and it was quite devastating. So it just reminded me again that we need to be thinking of others, not just our own issues that we have. So reach out with a handshake or a hug or even just a smile, and tell people that you appreciate them being there and good to see them and whatever. So I will leave the teaching now to Larry. Thank you.
All right. Okay. This is another one of my favorites, especially when we get into the waffles and spaghetti part. But this is all about the spousal relationship. This is husbands and wives for the most part. But it's always good to start in the beginning. God created man in His image, and He created the male and female. And in Genesis 1:28, it says, God blessed them and told them to be fruitful, multiply, and take dominion over everything that moves. So what do we have here? We have God creating man in his image and then telling that image of himself to go forward, be fruitful, multiply, and take charge. So he didn't just create them, he created them with a purpose. Now, the thing that he wanted multiplied, it's important to realize that what he wanted them to multiply was his image, not just their stuff. It was his image that he wanted multiplied all over the planet that he had created. So, part of that being fruitful and multiplying, the purpose, females, and this is 99.9% true in pretty much everything that exists on the planet. There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, females produce eggs and males fertilize them. That's biology 101, right? So that's part of the being fruitful and multiplying process. Now, the take dominion over everything part is men are supposed to be husbands first, and then fathers, and part of that purpose is to guide, guard, and govern their families. In some other classes we talk about being a prophet, priest, and king. The prophet is supposed to be speaking the word in the home. The priest provides the spiritual covering in the home, and the king is the one who is ultimately responsible and accountable for the governance in the home. God is going to, at some point, say, "What'd you do with that family I gave you?" Right? Now, from my understanding, he doesn't ask the wife, "What did you do with the family I gave you?" Because she's not the one that's accountable for that. She does have responsibility for it, but she doesn't have to answer to God for it, at least in my understanding. Okay, so the prophet, priest, and king, and part of being the husband and the father, especially the father, is for the children, to reflect the image of our Heavenly Father. Now, the way the last 2 or 3 generations have been, there's been a lot of broken families, there's been a lot of spiritual warfare against fathers. So there's a lot of families that didn't have a father around. So how does one develop a good idea of what a heavenly father would be that actually loves you unconditionally, right? You have no example. And that's where we are today. Excuse me. Very few people anymore have a good image of what a father should be, so they have a hard time having a relationship with God. Because I know God is this thing out there and He created the universe and all this kind of stuff, but they don't understand how that father loves his children and wants to bless them and corrects them when they do wrong, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important for the fathers to be godly fathers as well as husbands. Part of being a godly father is showing your kids how to be a godly husband, right?
Yeah.
Women, supposed to be the wives, should be wives first, then mothers. It's hardly ever the case anymore. But they're supposed to be the queen, because they're number 2 in charge. When the king's not there, the queen is in charge. Okay? Teachers, supposed to be nurturers. They train up the kids, they take care of the kids, all that kind of stuff. Complementors. God gave us men, wives, as a gift, a helpmate, right? Somebody that will complement us, that has the gifts that we don't have. so that we can be better together than either one of us apart. You know, the sum is greater than the individual pieces here. That's what that's talking about. Somebody that's on your team, somebody on your side that's gonna try to help you win in life, not try to beat you.
You said there's a difference between completing
Right,
and complementing.
right. Yeah, this is not Jerry Maguire. You complete me, right? That's not what a wife is for, or a husband. Your spouse is not the one who is supposed to complete you. You're supposed to be whole
Right.
before you get into a relationship, right? Because God likes to multiply, and He wants to do a whole 1 times a whole 1, so He gets 1. Another whole 1, right? Oops. 1 times 1 equals 1. So a whole 1 times a whole 1 is a whole 1.
Amen.
A half times a half is a fourth. So when you start multiplying less than whole, things get even smaller. And we go through that a lot in the Beyond Divorce class. We want people to be whole so that they're ready for something that God has for them down the road. But if you try to get into a relationship and you're not healed and whole yet, you're basically just going to be sucking the life out of somebody else. And if they're not whole, you're just going to be exchanging hoses on a vacuum cleaner, kind of.
And those people become projects, and we
Yeah.
don't need projects.
Well, yeah, who needs a project, right? You get into a relationship to have a, to be blessed, right? To have an abundant life.
I wanted to add something about, how the children, how you model. I remember someone saying the best way for kids to know that their love is how the parents love each other, how they see the dad loving the wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So modeling that for the kids.
That was like Pastor Brad was talking last night at the service, How do you know somebody's a Christian?
Right.
Because they love people. They love their neighbors, right? Okay, so wives should be complementors. We're not looking for completers because we should be whole to begin with. The other thing is they should be builders of their husbands, right? Which is kind of like being the complementer, but this is like, and it's not, hey, you got nice hair today. I mean, that's not the kind of compliments I'm talking about here. Or you got, your eyes are pretty, or, whatever that is. It's somebody that comes alongside and helps you do the job that's being done, and, they're just helping. But the complementing part is this part, the builders of their husbands. One of the Proverbs says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her own hands.
And in words.
And especially words, yeah. And we'd like to say, you end up with the kind of marriage that you build. And there's 2 kinds of marriages, one made in heaven, one made in hell. And you get the one you make.
Right.
Yes.
It's not somebody else's fault,
Right.
right? You gotta own this stuff, right? You own your stuff, let them own their stuff. Don't be messing in other people's stuff.
Larry, where's that scripture at from Proverbs that the women?
Oh, I think it's, seems like it's maybe 17, somewhere in 17. Not 100% sure, but it's in Proverbs, I know.
Yes.
Could be 14.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's in the teens. Okay, so God created man in His image. He wanted His image to be multiplied over the planet. Basic biology, some more in the purpose of what men are supposed to be doing, women are supposed to be doing. And then we look at 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 7. That's where it really says there should be one man and one woman. That's what marriage is. It also says your body is not yours. when it comes to that sexual relationship. Do not defraud one another. And the wife's body doesn't belong to her, it belongs to the husband, and vice versa. So your body belongs to your spouse, is what it's saying. And we also understand that God intended marriage to be entered into by two people who are virgins, right?
Yep.
God is all against sexual immorality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think most of us have probably been there, done that, but we understand now there's always this comparison.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes a problem, you know. So we run into those kind of things in a blended family because you're usually been married before, right? So hopefully that marriage got consummated somewhere along the line. So that is not really a possibility, but it is possible to do a spiritual reset, right? No cohabitating, no premarital sex, and those kind of things. You abstain from that until you get married. That kind of does a reset. You know, you confess any of the premarital stuff as a sin and do that kind of stuff just to start off clean.
But it has to be a mutual agreement as to a time frame.
Yeah, it's something that is agreed upon.
Right.
It's all about agreement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, one of the couples that we had, she said 3 months. And the guy's, what? You kidding me? You know, we've been living together for 7 years and 3 months. So we said, hey, you have to be realistic about this. That was a bit excessive.
So it's, and, you know, and this part about your body is not yours, that's also something that has to be agreed upon,
Right.
right? I mean, don't take me literally here that, okay, slave, come here, you know, it's not like that. It's how, you have to be reasonable, you have to be agreeable, you have to be in the mood. But if you're just, okay, well, like here, love gives, lust takes, right?
That's true. That's true.
If this is a lust issue, you're just taking. If it's a love thing, you're giving, right? And that's what's expected is you love one another, so you're giving of yourself
To each other.
to each other, right?
Yeah.
Now, the way Satan has perverted the whole sex thing is it's something you get.
Yeah.
You gotta go get it.
Yeah.
Versus giving, right? And that's where we are today. There's so much, you know, pornography and all this other stuff. Everything has been perverted to where it's just a commodity, you know, something you just go buy or sell, and that's just lust.
Yeah.
Which we have lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Those are the three major sins, right?
Everything
But-
stems out of those.
Just break it down. Love is something you're giving. And that was part of what they were talking about last night is love, right? Love never fails, but love gives. You know, the whole lust issue is you're trying to get something for yourself versus giving of yourself.
That's good.
Right. Okay, it's 9:34. Okay, I'm going to take a minute to get this video thing set up and erase the board so we can show this on the thing. And then we'll do that. It's 12 minutes or somewhere in there. All about how people's brains work. And it's really good to understand that. When you understand how your spouse's brain is working, how they process information, it helps you understand what's going on.
Well, you fill in the blanks. Okay, so now we're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right, now men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We've got a box for the money. We've got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is, the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's just like... It's like the internet superhighway, okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's just... It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. It's true. It's true. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. And we love it. That's why a guy can sit in front of a TV and go. clothes. Of course, this drives our wives nuts because they'll come up and say, "Stop that! You can't possibly be watching anything!" I'm not. Go away. Now, they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that and watched the brain activity, then all of a sudden, I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing. Now, one of the biggest revelations I get out of women is this whole nothing box issue. They just, everything's starting to make sense. And I've had women say, oh, it's nothing. Well, can I go and it's nothing? Now, one of the biggest revelations I get out of women is this whole nothing box issue. They just, everything's starting to make sense. And I've had women say, oh, it's nothing. Well, can I go in his nothing box with him? No! Why not? Because then it's something. Besides, you'll walk in there and go, you know, this place could really use some pictures. Nice little table over here, some flowers. Is it? No! Nothing! Get out! We don't want nothing. Now, this handles the way men and women handle stress. Okay? When a man is stressed out, all he wants to do is run to his nothing box. This is how we unwind. The last thing we want to do when we're stressed out is talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. We just want to. Of course, it just drives her nuts, you know. A woman will see a man in that vegetative state and she'll come up and go, "What you thinking about?" Nothing. We gotta be thinking about something. No, I was thinking about nothing. In fact, I was on a roll till you showed up. Go away, all right? Because that's how he handles stress. He just. Now, when a woman is stressed out, she has to talk about it. If she doesn't talk about it, her brain will literally explode. So she'll start just, I don't know, might have something to do with this. Not gonna have that. You know, I never thought about this. My brother over here said to me, and I know men who run from their wives when they do this. They do. I say, well, why do you run from her? He says, because I don't know what to tell her. I said, dear God, man, who told you to tell her anything? She wants you to tell her anything. See, a lot of guys, they feel obligated when you start explaining all your stress, they feel obligated to fix you. Right? Because that's what a man does. A man only tells his troubles to another man in hopes that that man will help fix it. Okay? But she's not a man. And you try and fix her, she gonna kill you. All right? She doesn't want your advice. She doesn't want your help. She wants you to shut up and listen. And a couple of ladies, that's right, you tell him. Tell him to shut up. They like that. Now, I had one guy tell me, he said, man, if she just tell me how she feels. I said, she doesn't know yet. This is what he means. That's how she figures out how she feels, by connecting this wire to that wire, this wire, and so. Now, because they love each other, they offer to each other their answer, their solution. A man senses his wife is stressed out. He loves the girl. He offers to the girl his best and finest solution. Or just quit talking about it. Just quit thinking about it. Yeah. And that's when she starts reaching for the knives and stuff. She's gonna stab you if you keep it up, okay? Now, a woman, she senses her husband's all stressed out. She loves him. Therefore, she offers to him her best and finest solution. Talk to me. Why won't you talk to me? Go away. He doesn't want to talk to you. Leave him alone. He will not die. He's not a woman. All right? I know you've got to talk it through or you're going to be twisted inside. He's not like that. Leave the boy alone. You tell he's stressed out, just let him go to his nothing box. Just stay away.
What'd you think?
It's pretty spot on.
You agree with him?
Yeah.
Eric and Vanessa, is that the first time you've seen it?
Yeah.
She won't walk away.
That's where a lot of, yeah.
That's
That's
the
where
first
a lot-
time you guys have seen that?
Yeah.
Rosa, this the first time you've seen it?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was very correct.
Very correct.
Kelly and Deborah, you guys have seen it before, and of course Karen has. but
I
she
will
don't
give one
speak.
piece of advice.
Okay.
We've seen it before, but you need to see it consistently so that you can remember it.
You pick up,
Kelly and
yeah.
I just went through that yesterday. I was talking to him and he wants to solve something for me and I look at him, I say, no, I'm not. Oh, this big solution that you got and I look at, no, I'm not. So we have to watch it over and over so we remember.
Well, it's, probably seen it 20 times now.
Yeah.
It still makes me laugh.
It's
Yeah,
still
it
funny,
does.
yeah.
It's so true.
It's, there's so much truth in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, back in week 3, we're talking about celebrate your differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is part of that. You have to realize men and women don't think the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many times in counseling sessions, well, think it should just be more like me,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But it's not the way it works. So each of us process information differently.
Yeah.
You know, our emotional quotients are different. How we perceive things are different. You know, how we react to things are different. You know, just men are men and women are women. You know, they just see things different. But as a married couple, or being in a relationship, you have to realize this person that you're with is different than you. And part of the marriage thing, the spousal relationship, is just taking the time to get to know this person, how their brain works, what their gifts are, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. One thing that I think he talked about it somewhere in his, like, 4-hour thing, is because the brains are different, and Pastor Leo used to teach on this. There's something that happens to a male baby in the womb. There's the testosterone chemicals do something to the brain and kind of rearrange how the networks work. That doesn't happen to the female babies. So really what happens is as men, we tend to use one half of the brain at a time. We get to use both halves, but just not at the same time as much. So, you know, give us a break, we're sort of brain damaged from birth.
So that means women are smarter.
No, not necessarily. They just get to use, they're using more of their brain to connect everything to everything.
Larry,
Yeah.
one of the things talking about that, just quickly, I grew up with 6 sisters. However, I was close to my dad. I was the son he didn't have.
Okay.
So, and I was telling Kelly when we're watching that, well, I love fishing, because, you know, I used to do that. Well, there's certain things at the men's brain, and what I realized is that the more time you spend with that person, the more you compliment. It becomes, I like visiting the empty box every once in a while alone by myself. And that's because the more time you spend and the more years, you'll understand and you'll compliment one another and say, hey, I can visit that site, I don't mind doing that. And I think I attribute mine to growing up around my dad,
Right.
that it's learned behavior, or you have a better understanding or compliment one another on that.
Right. Yeah, very true. And, you know, this is very general. You know, obviously there's exceptions. Some ladies, their brain works more like a guy. You know, they're more logical than relational, for example. Yeah, there's always the exception. But generally speaking, men are more today and tomorrow. Because of that thing that happens before we're born with the brain, it gives us the ability. I mean, you look at it as a gift, right? The gift is you have the ability to focus on one thing instead of being aware of all this other stuff going on at the same time, right? So you're more focused. You can, you know, work on a car engine, or, you know, do something kind of mindless like fishing. You know, you can just sit there and do that one thing and not worry about it. Both of us, men and women both, have today. That's the one thing we have in common, is like right now. Men tend to be looking, because that's the way we're wired, to be the visionaries. Here's where we're going, and we want to get there. We could care less what happened yesterday, or 10 minutes ago, right? Especially if something bad happened. We don't want to go there, we don't want to stay there, we just want to get away from it and go somewhere else. So we're looking to the future and what's happening right now and where we're going. So we want to be the leaders, the visionaries, where we're going and all that. The women tend to be, you know, like right now, but they're more of the historian, the relational. So everybody's birthdays, anniversaries, who did what, when, and all that. It's kind of, you know, their nature to keep track of those things, and it's all that relational stuff. Who did what and when, right? Now, the other thing though is it's a little tougher to forgive,
Yeah, I was
because it's
just gonna
harder to
say,
forget.
yeah, you guys wanna forget everything and move on. No. We have to revisit and find out what broke down in the marriage or in the relationship, so we can repair it and make sure that doesn't happen again.
And like he said, a lot of the repairing is for the men to just shut up and listen,
Right.
right? And that was one of the things I learned real quick through counseling was sometimes you just have to listen and validate feelings.
Right.
And that fixes whatever needs to be fixed. It's not like, so what's the problem? Okay, let me go fix it. Tell me what it is, and then shut up, and then I'll go fix it, and then we can get back to normal. No, that's not how that works, right? Hearing the problem is validating the feelings.
Right.
And it's, you know, for a guy, that's not that easy sometimes to just, because we don't want to listen. You know, that's old news, you know? And that's why, in a lot of counseling sessions, we keep hearing about how the wife tends to keep bringing up the past. Well, that's the way the brain works.
And that's normal for a woman to do that.
Yeah. It's
And the
part of
guy
the
thinks
nature.
she's just being, well, she's never gonna forgive me, but yet she told me she forgave me. Well, that's just normal for a woman's reaction. And when she finally makes sense of everything and knows how to repair those mistakes, then she can move on and you all can move on together. But it's very important that the woman go back and figure it all out.
Yeah, and I think one thing along those lines that he was talking about that's really important, a lot of times she doesn't know how she feels
Right.
until she talks about it. And then she kind of figures out, okay, well, that's how I feel about that. Well, then, once she figures that out, then she can kind of figure out what to do with the feelings, right? Forgive, not forgive, hold a grudge, you know, whatever it's going to be,
Or
for a
trust-
time.
Or trusting again, which is the hardest
Yeah.
one to
Yeah.
redo.
Right. So, men tend to be today and tomorrow, and women tend to be today and yesterday, just because of the way the brains are made. Okay, Ephesians 5:21 to 33, that's basically from 21 to the end of the chapter. It starts there at 21, it says, submitting yourselves one to another. Okay? You're equals in value, not in purpose. Okay? Big difference. God sees you as equally valuable. One is not more valuable than the other. But you don't have the same purpose. And part of what's going wrong in culture today is everybody's trying to be the same as everybody else in purpose. What they really want is equal value, but they're trying to become equal in value through what they're doing. They don't seem to understand that because God has been eliminated from so much of everyday life, they don't understand they're created equally in the eyes of God. So their whole basis for being equal is way off. They're looking at it, paychecks, jobs, performance, you know, and all that. Well, they missed the whole point. But in this one, it's submitting yourselves one to another. You're equal in value, not in purpose, and not equal in performance. It also is, you know, put each other before yourself. It's mutual respect. You know, I love you, I love me. We're good. But if you're not whole, then you're not going to see somebody else as being whole either. Because you're going to be the odds are you're going to be a whole lot more critical of someone else if you're not feeling you're all right. Because now you're looking, you're not okay, you're not safe with you, so you don't see anybody else as being okay. So they just start picking at them. Okay, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, the church is the bride of Christ, and he died for her. Pretty high standard. It's kind of scary, right? But one of the other scriptures is, there is no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend, right? Which is, you hear so many stories of guys in the military, you know, somebody jumps on a hand grenade or something just to save 2 or 3 other guys, you know. That's true love. Is But you can't really do that if you don't know where you're going. If you have a strong belief that whatever I do here is just temporary, and if when I die I'm going to heaven, then it's not as big a deal to give yourself up, because, hey, you're going to heaven. Wives, okay, this is Ephesians 5:33 here. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. The church is the bride of Christ, and he died for her. Wives, respect your husbands. We do a thing, it's chapter 11 or 12, we talk about respect, and we do the big circle, and without love, she reacts, and without respect, and without respect, he reacts without love. But wives, respect your husbands, and that's based, in the scripture, it's based on position, not performance. We've heard it a lot of times over the years, well, if he would do this, then I would respect him.
And
So-
husbands say the same things about the wife.
Well, that's that circle, right?
Right,
Well, if she would respect me, then I'd love her,
yeah,
right? You do what you're supposed to do, then I'll do what I'm supposed to
yeah,
do.
and that's not how God wants it.
No, well, that's conditional love,
Right.
right? If you do what you're supposed to do, then I'll do what I'm supposed to do. But if you're not, then I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not, then they're not either.
God's not gonna bless the relationship.
So, we do talk about that respect thing later on. And there is a big difference between position and performance. Now, when it comes to respect, yeah, you can earn it through your performance. And as Christians, we're supposed to do that. A big part of the Christian life is being obedient and doing the right things out of love.
Yeah.
But there are certain parts of respect that are based on position, like God, right? Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Why? Because he's God, not because of what he does, who he is, right? And kids need to respect their parents because it's their parents, right? Respect your elders, right? That was kind of beat into my head as a kid, right? So certain types of respect are built on performance, and you earn it because you do what you say you're gonna do. You set goals, you achieve them, you make promises, you keep them, those kind of things. But there are certain things that are just based on position. God has put people in certain positions, and we are supposed to respect them with that understanding that God put them there. Nobody is anywhere that God didn't allow them to be there. Kings, presidents, they didn't get there if God didn't want them there. So we just need to continue to put God first, understand he's in charge, not us, and whatever is happening is because he's allowing it to happen. And, when you look at it that way, then you don't get so stressed out about things not going the way you wanted them to do. So, okay, what is it, quarter after almost? Any other comments, questions? And apologies for the technical difficulties. I'll probably edit the video. We can always edit the audio, that's easy. The video's not that hard either, but it takes longer. So,
That position and performance is important because it goes back to respecting authority. And, the scripture tells us that if we don't respect authority, it's like rebellion, and rebellion is like witchcraft. So, God has this, and you did that last week, I believe, about the different order, and it's based on position.
Chairman of the board and the CEO.
Yeah, it's based on position, not performance. But it doesn't mean that, you can go out and be a wicked king. You should be a good king. And if you're a wicked king, God will deal with you.
And, in the Old Testament, God allowed a lot of evil kings to become kings to chastise his children.
Yeah, yeah.
put them into captivity and different things. Deborah?
One of the things I like to use an analogy of, and just talking in general in the world, there's a scripture in the Bible where it's about the coin where Jesus was speaking and he said, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, when he was showing him whose face is
Right.
on this coin. A lot of times, even in our society, we may not like the government, we may not like those that are in charge, or even people in authority, but
Excuse me.
we might not agree with them, but the Lord commands us to give to them what belongs to them, because they have to answer for that, not us.
Right. Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And we're always, even with people in authority, we're always like going against and not agreeing. I don't agree with a lot of things, however, I am instructed to give to them what belongs to them.
Right. And, you know, you obey God first,
Mm-hmm.
and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you know, the whole submission little or flow chart in the beginning, right? It's both the husband and the wife have to answer to God first,
Mm-hmm.
and then each other.
Yeah.
And then the wife to the husband, right? So it's not, you don't get to the third step if you haven't taken the first two.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, you answer to God, but he also instructs us to obey man's laws as well.
Mm-hmm. He tells us to pray for
Him
those
first.
in leadership. That's where the power of our, because if God puts them in there, that power of prayer makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell us to go rebel,
No.
go overthrow the government. Not that, you know, there might be sometimes that he calls us to do things such as, you know, how, you know, in the American Revolution, we rebelled against the King of England. But, you know, just basically is to pray for those that are in authority over us so that God can begin to deal with those. And that's the same with the husband and wife. You know, praying for each other and knowing that God is going to be the one to deal with each person's heart and trust that God will turn the situation around that needs to be turned around.
Mm-hmm.
But again, looking to God for his wisdom of what you need to do about each situation.
Right.
Yeah, Jesus could have told that crowd, you know, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. Don't rebel now, because I got a big plan for the Roman Empire. I'm going to put a burning cross in the sky and show Constantine, and in one fell swoop, turn most of the known world Christian.
Right.
So, you know, we don't know God's plan, but he has one.
Yeah. And, you know, there's so many examples of the evil kings being, you know, raised up. Mostly to, you know, punish the Israelites,
The people
the
that was
Hebrews.
in their
Because
disobedience.
they were being sinners and they were, you know, turning their backs on God, so God says, well, okay, you know, I can deal with that,
Mhm.
you know. So then they end up, you know, 50, 100, 200 years or 400 years in captivity, right?
Mhm.
And then God says, okay, that's enough, and then brings somebody along to get them out. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that wraps things up for this week. Next week is the vertical and horizontal, I think.
I think so.
All right.